wide open areas to test in. If anyone has any friends at NASA Ames that wants to give me access to a runway for a day, I'll be your friend forever. We did actually get roof access. We not quite roof access, we got access to DT suite, and we fired off the roof, off the balcony. As it turns out, 120-degree air isn't really good for power amps that get really, really hot anyway. Magic smoke did escape. I was up quite late last night fixing all of this, so I'm fingers crossed that something works. Okay, so demo of actually reading tags then. So just to give you an idea of what kind of range I'm looking at. So unfortunately, one of the problems with the Gen 2 RFID reader on the USRP, it needs an extremely low latency USB. The Gen 2 is very, very sensitive to latency. So if you've got a full operating system, it's too much. It's going to get in the way. So I've got a very, very bare bones Debian installation here running the absolute minimum possible, so there's nothing that gets in the way. Unfortunately, that means that it's pretty much incapable of talking to the projectors here. So hopefully what we're going to try is, I believe there was a plan to focus video on the screen and try and project that. So we'll see if that works. Let me just set this up here. So. And if you can actually see that. Hey, too far. Okay. So what you're looking at, there's three things that you're going to be seeing on the screen here. White text is where the system has interacted with a tag in some fashion. Maybe hasn't, quite gotten the response it expected, but it sent a command and it got a response, something went on. If you see a red text means that it's read a tag, but something went wrong. There was an error, maybe the EPC that came back failed its checksum, something like that. Blue text is a successful read. So don't worry too much about what's actually on the screen, just look at the color of the text. White means it's interacting, red means it's a bad read or fault of some kind, blue means it's a successful read. So let me turn the power amp on here. Okay, and straight away, without anyone holding up any real tags, you can see we've got collisions. So that's largely due to the sheer density of tags in this environment. It's really not designed for this many tags. So we'll see how this copes. If you look at the tags that you were given, you should see there's a metal strip inside it. The orientation of the metal strip has to match the antennas. It has to be the same polarity. So make sure to hold the tags up sideways so that metal strip is vertical, just like the bars on the antenna. So you can see there's quite a huge amount of traffic scrolling by here. If I could ask maybe the first 5 rows to put down their tags, that was a lot more than 5. But okay, so you can see, we're getting back to, just in front of the camera area, maybe another 5 rows back. Okay, the ID me is identifying at the moment. No, let me just restart it. Did I mention that it's kind of flaky too? So, okay, so we're now interacting with tags, well behind the cameraman here. I can't actually see whether there's any successful reads. Are we getting any blue reads here or not? Okay, so it's clearly interacting with tags. I was kind of hopeful that we'd get some successful reads, but like I say, all the DEFCON badges and your sunglasses and even your faces are causing clutter. So not too surprised it doesn't work. What I am going to be doing though is once I get back to California, I'm actually going to be calling the folks from Guinness World Records. Once I get to access to a test range, I'm going to get them down, because the 217 feet that I read at, I believe that is a world record. So I'm going to get Guinness in, get it certified, and then announce it officially. Okay, so let me turn the power amp off. I am also, after the talk, I'm going to be up in the hardware hacking village So if you want to see the equipment up close and have a play with it and just validate that it does read tags in slightly less hostile environments, please feel free to do so. Okay. So what's the upper limit here? We've clearly validated the radar range equation. We've got solid evidence that the radar range equation is valid in this environment. So how far can we take it? Well, under ham radio rules, we can have 1.5 kilowatts of transmit power. So what's the biggest antenna that we can get? Well, this is the largest I've been able to find. This is a 2x2 array of 26-foot long Yagis. So each Yagi, each boom is 26 feet long, and the 4 antennas that you see actually are all configured as one big antenna. So we actually get about 26 dBi gain out of this. And if you run the numbers, if you put a legal limit transmitter into that big an antenna, you should get a read range of about 2 miles. So that's what you can do with ham radio. What about the military? This is a naval radar system called ANSPS-49. SPIS-49 is how they refer to it. Runs at 851 to 942 megahertz, so nicely overlaps our band. 280,000 watts peak power. That's shiny. Want. Dish 24 feet wide, 14 feet high, gives us about 35 dBi. If you crunch the numbers on this, assuming it's possible to backport a Gen 2 system into this, you should get a read range of about 80 miles. Kind of scary, but we're not done yet. Logical limit. Arecibo Radio Observatory. Believe it or not, amateur radio operators do get access to Arecibo sometimes. A couple of months ago, there was a group got access. They put a 400-watt transmitter on the Arecibo dish, pointed it at the moon. And the idea was that you had amateur radio operators all around the world with little tiny handheld Yagis, much smaller than this, pointing them at the moon and bouncing reflections off the moon to Arecibo and talking from anywhere around the world to Arecibo with a moon bounce. It's kind of neat. Entirely amateur run. So it does happen. It's theoretically possible that we could put a 1.5 kilowatt legal limit transmitter on the Arecibo Radio Observatory. Again, if you crunch the numbers with that, 317 miles. To put that into perspective, if you were to put an EPC Gen 2 tag on the International Space Station, you should be able to read it with this as it flies overhead. It's ridiculous range, absolutely preposterous, just insane. So let's bring it back to reality here. 317 miles, it's probably not going to work. You're going to get a lot out of it, but 317, maybe that's arguing a little much. Either way, we have still validated the radar range equation in this situation, so significant ranges are definitely possible. I've done 217 feet. I believe the equipment's capable of 500, maybe more, and clearly we've got a problem here. We can read these tags at very, very long ranges. Eventually, round trip time is going to become a limit. It's very sensitive to timing. Either way, I firmly believe that it's possible to read these things at over a mile. And I hope to prove that, but for the moment, I'll settle for the little Guinness certificate, assuming they come through with that. In the meantime, clutter is the primary limiting factor. Certainly the ranges that you can get from the available power and the available antennas, clutter is going to be the most significant factor. So I had a bunch of scenarios here for long-range RFID. I gave this talk at Black Hat, and they give you a little more time at Black Hat. So I'm just going to kind of skip through these and give you my top 3 threats for this. So assuming that you can read RFID tags like these from 200 feet, and assuming that they're in identity documents and Walmart and all the rest of it, in other words, assuming nothing beyond what's actually real at this time now. Assuming an attacker gets hold of this stuff, what can he do? I'm going to skip through most of them. These slides are already up on my blog. If you've seen my Twitter, there's a link from there to my blog, and all the slides are up there. So I'll skip these. There we go. Number 3. So I bought 1,500 RFID tags to give away at Black Hat and DEFCON for $100. These tags are reprogrammable. You can give them any ID number you like, which means that you know that the way that the numbers are allocated, let's say New York State wants to issue a bunch of enhanced driver's licenses. They go to EPC and they say, give us a prefix. It's like a MAC address, you can think of the way that they're structured. So you can look at that prefix and you can know where that tag came from. So if you kind of flip that on its head and you take those 1,500 tags and you reprogram them with a known prefix and then sequential numbers after that, you can produce 1,500 effectively passport cards or EDLs or whatever kind of tag it is you want. Wait until your friend crosses a border, drop that in his trunk or stick him to his car. I don't know what the hell Customs and Border Protection are going to do when they see you try and cross a border with 1,500 passports in your trunk, but it ain't going to be pretty. I'll say the same thing I did at Black Hat. Please don't do this, or if you do, record video and send it to me. Sniffing clothing. This one creeps me out. I don't like this at all. Walmart have stated that they're going to be using this technology to identify individual SKUs. So you'll have distinct RFID tag numbers for every size, every color, every style of every item of clothing in that store. So when you combine that with the ability to read tags from a mile away, 10 miles away, however far away, I can stand here on stage and know what kind of underwear you're all wearing. That gets creepy really quickly. I don't really want to think about how that can be abused, but just the concept of knowing that much detail about someone from that far away, it's just not right. And the number one that I came out with, and the reason this gets my number one is because I believe it's a viable business model. You can actually install multiple RFID readers at the doors to a mall, read people's credit cards, read their driver's licenses, every single tag that walks through, correlated all together by time because you've got these very short-range reads, and then track those identities from the long-range tags that they have on them. So you can watch people as they wander around the mall, you can see what route they take, you can see whether they stop in any shops, you can see whether they pause and look in any windows. You can get a huge amount of information about how people behave within that mall environment. And to a typical mall owner, that's going to be very valuable info because they can then use that to figure out, well, most people could take this way around, so we'll charge more for this advertising spot that's in the more popular path. All this kind of stuff. It's all the kind of really deep data that folks that run malls really love. And again, it's in the majority of states, it's perfectly legal. Most states do not have any laws on RFID sniffing, so you can do this. It's not a problem. And like I say, it's probably a viable business model as well. If someone wants to, you could make some money out of it. So 2 quick defenses, just before I stop for some questions. 2 solutions for all of this. And I'm sure that pretty much any privacy advocate would agree with these 2. Number 1, do not put RFID in identity documents. Here's the thing about the tags that you were given. Those all have unique serial numbers. But you don't know whether I arranged with the people at the doors handing out the tags. Let's say I knew that a certain person was coming and I wanted to make sure that that person got a specific ID number. You don't know if I was doing that. You don't know if the people at the doors had hidden cameras and they were taking pictures of everyone and making a note of what RFID tag corresponds to what face. You don't know how those tags could be abused by me or by anyone else. But here's the thing. The tag that's in your driver's license, you can't throw that away. These ones you can. That's the big difference. So all of the privacy threats are exactly the same, but when it's in a federally issued identity document, you cannot escape it. Secondly, disable all store issue RFID tags upon purchase. A lot of stores that use RFID do this, but because of weaknesses in EPC Gen 2, you can either kill the killers or reprogram the tags to change the lock codes. There's all kinds of ways of preventing people from disabling these tags, and there should be some kind of consequences if that process failed. Beyond that, informing people that RFID is in use is always good. There's a lot of FUD surrounding RFID. A lot of people use RFID and don't really want to call it RFID because RFID has such a stigma. Either way, if you're